Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. The lab we're going to be doing here is going to be determining the amount of water or a hydrate in a hydrated salt. And the hydrated salt we're going to be using is Epsom salt. I happen to pick this up at Walmart. This is magnesium sulfate heptahydrate. So it's got one magnesium sulfate molecule, and bonded to that are going to be 7 water molecules. And what we're going to do is we're going to mass out the amount of Epsom salt into a pan, put it in an oven at 350 degrees, wait for about 15-20 minutes, shut off the oven, let the Epsom salt cool, and then weigh it again. So before we're heating it and after we're heating it, the mass reduction, because the mass should go down because within the oven the water should evaporate, that change in mass is going to be the amount of water that is evaporated off of our hydrated salt. So to begin, we're going to need some Epsom salt, which we have right here. We're going to need our digital scale right here. And we're going to need a pan to put the Epsom salt in. First thing we're going to do is we're going to be sure that this is going to be zeroed. All right. And then we want to record the mass of the pan, and you're going to want to place that into our table, right? That whether it's either trial 1, trial 2, or trial 3. From there, what we want to do is we want to pour in about 12 grams of Epsom salt. So right now my pan weighs 1.4 grams. So I'm going to pour in anywhere between 12 and 14 grams. It doesn't exactly matter how much you put in there. You just want to be certain that you get an accurate mass. And so right there, I was at 1.4. Now I'm at 14.3. So I added 13.9 grams. Now what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to place this in an oven for 15 minutes, and the oven is going to be at 350 degrees. And when I come back, we will have driven off the water. And I'm back. And so now what we've got is we've got just the anhydrous without the water. So what I've done is I've removed this from the oven using a hot mitt or a hot pan holder. I let it cool to room temperature for a little while. Let it cook for about 20 minutes. Let it cool for about 10 minutes. It's not room temperature. You can notice that it looks a little bit different now. Before it was tiny little crystals. Now they're all sort of clumped together because what has happened is we removed the water. So now what we want to do is we want to mass the pan with the anhydrous. And so if we mass this, we get 10.3. So here, what we start out with 1.4 grams for the pan. The mass of the pan and the hydrate is 10.3. So now what we're going to do is we're going to write down the mass of the pan and the anhydrous from the scale, which is 10.3 grams. All right, so we write that right there. Now we next have to determine the mass of the hydrate. All right, so the mass of the hydrate is the magnesium sulfate heptahydrate. So we're going to take the mass of the hydrate and the pan, and from that we're going to subtract out the mass of the pan. And if we do that, so in my case it's going to be 14.3 minus 1.4, and so for that we're going to get 12.9. So that becomes the mass of the hydrate right here. Now the next one is going to be the mass of the anhydrous. And so that's going to be the mass of the pan and the anhydrous. And what we must do next, we must subtract the mass of the pan. So we're going to take 10.3 and we're going to subtract from it 1.4. So we take 10.3 minus 1.4, and that's going to give us 8.9. So the mass of the anhydrous is going to be 8.9. Now next we need to determine the mass of the water release. Well, if we start with 12.9 grams of the hydrate, now remember that's the magnesium sulfate heptahydrate, and we subtract the mass of the anhydrous, so we subtract those two, that will give us the mass of the water. So 12.9, which is the mass of the hydrate, minus 8.9, which is the mass of the anhydrous. So if we subtract those two, that will give us the mass of the water. And so 12.9 minus 8.9 is going to give us 4.0 grams. And so that is the mass of the water that was released by heating it above the boiling point. Next, we have the percent of water in the unknown hydrate. And so from that, we're going to take, in our example we have here, we're going to take the 4 grams of the water, remember that's the water that's released, and we're going to divide that by the mass of the hydrate. So in this case, it's going to be 4 divided by 12.9. So if we take 4 divided by 12.9, and we multiply that by 100, what we're going to end up getting is we get 31% for the hydrate. If you have any questions, please let me know.